All right. I think everyone is here now. Okay.
I've been here. I was waiting on you.
And I see Mr. Scott is here. Hello, Mr. Scott. How are you doing this evening?
Greetings, greetings. Very good, very good.
Uh, I want you to know that you and uh, uh, Mr. Allen were part of the inspiration for our show tonight.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. I watched your show Saturday. It was you and Mr. Allen, and I forget the other gentleman's name. He's been on before.
Oh
He
yeah,
was
straight pressure. Yeah, straight
yeah,
pressure.
yeah, 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 yeah. Straight pressure. And uh, uh, I wanted to kind of get to uh, what when you and I think Don showed the picture of White Lives Matter with Kanye West uh, Candace Owens, and I had, like I said, the inspiration to for tonight's show because everyone was saying that Kanye is a businessman and Kanye is all about the green. But to me, that's like saying, like if they sell ropes at a KKK rally, the KKK are businessmen. Hey, they're not doing nothing but selling the product. I couldn't understand why we give this man a pass, either because he was married to a white woman or because we just like his music that much. And I know that you, as a man that constantly talks against rap music, that cannot be the case in your case. So, so I want to know how you. Well, let's go back a little further. Let's go back into White Lives Matter, okay? Because White Lives Matter was a group that in 2016 was being investigated as being a terrorist group. The lady that runs this group, Miss Rebecca Barnett, has a picture in front of a Nazi flag as she's talking and promoting her group. I don't understand how we don't have a problem with a black man promoting this type of uh, or trying to garner this kind of attention and use the excuse that he's a businessman. Those people down there in the turnaround, uh, 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 George Floyd Square, that are selling rocks, they consider themselves businessmen. We don't give them a pass. Your thoughts?
Well, again, you know, James, sometimes your interpretation of the things that you see is not. See, I didn't know personally. I didn't know there was such a group as White Lives Matter. I mean, I didn't know there was such a entity that it was an organized type of an organization. I had no idea about anything like that. And so I think the context, you always have to look at context, James, when when you look at things. In the context of that was just as we do on this program, we have discussions about people's thoughts because it's by words that we convey our thoughts. I mean, just like your great, person that's trying to run for Congress in Dr. Casey State, the great person. I call him Pootie Tang, but he's actually he's actually named Herschel Walker. And so you look at these kind of things, and then you just kind of scratch your head and try to understand. But no, no, I don't know anything about Kanye West. I saw him one time on Saturday Night Live, just standing up there. There was no band, there was nothing. He was just kind of jumping around and had some combat boots on, and it does nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. It
Yep.
just like I say, just like the Herschel Walker. And the thing about the Herschel Walker that really grates on me is these women come out and he tries to talk about abortion and he tries to talk about, and so a lady came out and said, well, he gave me money to have an abortion, and he says he doesn't know the lady.
Yeah, but
He
she got
didn't
kids,
know,
but she got a kid by him. She got a
but she has
10-year-old
a kid,
son.
right? So he had to turn about face, and then he said, well, I give a lot of people money, and so what the Republicans do is they say, well, he if he did pay for an abortion, he paid for it. The Democrats are trying to ask us to pay for people's abortions, but he showed response. So they know how to flip the script on everything that you see. But the Kanye, the man needs help. He has a platform, and I don't think he's using it, for the best purposes. I think he's just kind of run astray, doesn't really know what he's saying and doing, but has so much money and enough clout with some people. Just like Candace Owens, another person that you mentioned these people, James. I don't really, you mention these people, James. So I wonder if you have any affinity or love for, some of the Republicans. Herschel Walker,
No,
maybe
no.
you're a fan.
To be actually honest with you, Mr. Scott, and I can say this because this is my show. Uh, as far on the opposite side of love that you can get, that's probably how I am, especially when it comes to what I call bootlicking coons like Candace Owens and Herschel Walker. You
Well,
know,
I have a personal
see,
beef.
when I have a personal affinity for Uncle Tom's, and maybe that's just my personal flaw, but that's the way I feel. Dr. Casey, before I get all caught off in this here, am I going? Is there something wrong with what I'm saying? Do you feel that I'm attacking these people? Well, maybe I am attacking them, but do you
Well,
feel that I'm attacking them with good reason? I'll put it like that.
what I will say is that sometimes your perception of things can come off a little bit um aggressive at
Course.
times, especially when
Huge.
it comes to Minnesota and what they have going on in the Twin Cities. However, when it comes to Republican versus Democrat, I'll start there. I don't believe any of them have our best interests at heart. I think the Democrats are bullshit. I think that their goal is to keep us downtrodden and begging. And I don't think that they have a real sense of putting us in a place of independence on their forefront. With the Republicans, I also think that I mean the whole both all of them, the whole government is ran by a majority of white supremacists or people that are used to how things were and they're okay if things stay that way with little change to appease people um, to not try to overturn the government. Um, but Republicans are more so trying to get people to branch into a more independent state of living and being. I don't know when they claim that the party switched, but I don't think that nothing about the Democrats or the Republicans have really switched to be in any of our favor at any time. When it comes to Kanye West, I think I used to love Kanye. I used to like, and not just the old Kanye. I think that Kanye is a very complex thinker. I don't think that he uses his mind um, to the best of his ability. I think that he's about nigga. I think that he done sold his soul, and now he's doing wherever the money goes. He's just following the money, and that's not good because once you sell your soul, once you do whatever for money, then there is no coming back to authenticity. And he is not authentic at all in any way, shape, form, or fashion. He thinks that what he's doing is cute to bring attention, to get people talking, and all of that. But what he really doing is making himself look very, very ignorant he's making himself look like a total idiot. And the things that he's done over the years, um, from one, the way he got with his ex-wife, to the way he handled the divorce and her relationships after that, and everything that he's done, says that Kanye needs some real life mental help. Like, he needs an intervention. He needs something that will allow him, somebody to like pull him to the side. He not like needs to go away with a therapist for like a month or two, because he doesn't, he's not thinking through what he thinks he's thinking. Like, it's just like when he said the thing about the slaves. I understood what he said, when he was saying like it was like they wanted to stay slaves because it was something that I had spoken of briefly about before, but not in the sense that what he was talking about. Like, he just talks at the side of his neck. He don't think before he speak.
No.
He don't have no publicists, clearly, because nobody is helping, making sure that what he's saying makes sense. Not just to other people, but to actually interpret what he's really saying. And he does stuff for attention, which is a manipulation. So I've lost a great deal of respect for Kanye. I think that since his mother passed, he doesn't have any real good sense of direction. When it comes to Candace Owens, she's kind of the same, but everything that they're saying isn't always bad. It isn't always just the worst thing that they could say. It's just the principles in which they're standing on to make whatever arguments that they're trying to make. It just don't make sense. Um,
How could a black man personally, any kind of shape or form, say that slavery was an option?
I mean, now listen, at some point, you, as slaves, when there was various times where there was an uproar where you could, you know what I'm saying, try to escape or whatever. At some point, it's almost like right now, it's convenient to just go along to get along in a lot of these areas. Now, I'm not saying that if they would not have, you know what I'm saying, it's little that they could have done to really change things aside from banding together, but it's no different than now. People don't band together, so we'll always be subject to the system as long as we are not joining together and coming together as one to really make a good change. As long as we're dependent on the system, it's the same way with slavery. We're still in slavery. We might not see it as slavery, but as long as you are in the force, you are in the slave force. It's the same thing. They just added some benefits. They added a lot of shit to goddamn pat you on the back and say, okay, now hush, little baby, don't say a word. You know, they pacify us a lot with a lot of things. So what we see now, where people can barely afford to live based on their paychecks, is the modern day slavery. You go on, you're making just barely enough to take care of your family, barely enough to feed yourself, clothe yourself, house yourself. And if you have any kids, then they gotta, you know what I'm saying, and the workforce is designed to keep you coming back. So there is a, now when I said what I said years ago, it was a whole big context around what I said, based on the narrative that I was speaking of at the time. But it's no different from today, in my opinion. Until we're able to come together and band together, we will always be subject to the system. Because right
Uh,
now, Apple is a master. Uh, Kroger is a master. Publix is a master. Kroger's and Fry's is the same thing. Uh, every big corporation are all masters with employees that's doing all the work while they sit around and tell you what is working and what's not working. It's the same thing.
um, in my younger days, I definitely agree with you because that's why I chose my occupation as such. But we won't get into that part. But anyway, uh, I think when You say that when you talk about Kanye's mental state, uh, uh, if anyone has the time after the show's over, you can go on uh, YouTube, and Kanye has a series of interviews with Tucker Carlson, and I suggested you listen to him. And uh, uh, Dr. Casey, I got to ask you because I don't know, and I'm sure uh, Mr. Scott doesn't know, and Miss Sims probably doesn't know either. What is Ye? What is he changed his name from Kanye West to Ye?
That's
What?
just like no different than Puff Daddy being Diddy to
Okay,
being,
okay.
it's just
No,
Foolishness.
another.
Foolishness. That's what it
I was
is. It's
wondering,
foolishness. That's what it is.
if he thought he had some type of spiritual connection, and that's
I
what I was
mean,
wondering.
Kanye
Foolishness.
is in a uh he's still in his sunken place. That's what he said he was in at one point. He is still there. Like, and when I say that, I literally mean that whatever that sunken place was, he has not come out of that. He may have changed the look of it. He may, you know what I'm saying, dress it up and make it look like something. But you can tell where his mind is based on one of the things that he is putting himself and getting himself involved in, to his creativity and the things that he's doing clothes wise is not a place of high standard and all of those things. And then even with the last album that he put out where he was chanting his mama's name, I turned that shit off so fast. I am not summoning your dead mama into my house. What is you doing? Like, I don't want to hear it. So I just think that he is in a place where he is lost and confused. I think definitely that Kardashian Armenian curse, whatever that Armenian coochie do to people, it got him too.
But he's
Because he
allowed to have a
definitely
platform. He's allowed to have a major platform. Him, Candace Owens, Herschel Walker, buffoons that are allowed to have this huge platform. And
but
I
they only
personally,
have those platforms because they already got money. They already tied in and put themselves out there like that. And as long as they say stuff that's controversial, that is something that is against what people think is against black people, they will always have a platform because that's what sells.
well, I just have a personal beef. I'm just going to make this brief. Personal beef with Herschel Walker because the Vikings traded their whole team for this fool. Okay. This fool gets here on the first game and gets a kickoff and runs out of his shoe. Runs out of his shoe. One shoe on, 1 foot, barefoot, running. All people just thought this is just great. What ended up, Cowboys got draft choices to win the Super Bowl. Vikings been floundering ever
Ever
since.
since, ever since.
Ever since.
But I, I don't know, Dr. Casey, man, you might have to have some words. I don't think I'm that hard on people in Minnesota. But
Shit.
anyway,
Every time you come on here, you was talking about Minnesota. We don't talk about
no,
nothing else but
I wasn't.
Minnesota. I mean, I thought you was from
Kanye,
Minnesota
Kanye,
where you goddamn talk about Minnesota so much.
Kanye,
Like, yeah, damn,
Kanye.
Jane, you talk about Minnesota again. Like every week we talk about
Hold
Minnesota.
on,
I know
hold
there's
on.
something else
Wait,
going on in the world and other what's going
where,
on in
where,
the
Yes,
where,
yes,
where,
well,
where,
Dr.
where
Casey,
damn,
oh,
James, come on, Miss
hold
T.
on,
Dr.
hold on.
Casey, this is called a phobia. He has what's really what's
Wait,
called, if we
Like,
want to,
hold
diagnose
on,
it, it's
wait,
a
hold on.
phobia about
I
the
would
Twin
not have
Cities.
known. I would not have known about, because I don't follow Kanye West. I would not have known about Kanye West or White Lives Matter had
unless
it
you was
not
in Minnesota.
had I not watched Mr. Scott and Don Allen on Saturday. And that's the reason why I watch them. You know,
No, we're not talking about you watching them on Saturdays. We're
no,
talking
that
about
that
your
that
obsession with talking about
no,
Minnesota every week.
Kanye West and the Paris Fashion Show has nothing to do with Minnesota. I asked about Kanye West. I didn't
This
ask
the
nothing
first
about
time,
Minneapolis. I didn't ask nothing about St. Paul. I asked about
but you did
Kanye
bring it up a
West.
second ago. Just a second ago, you mentioned John damn Floyd got dang on George Floyd Square. You just mentioned it a second ago. This is, I mean, you have a slight
mentioned
obsession with it. That's why Mr. Scott be frustrated and he be goddamn going off a little bit because every week, this is the first week that
I tried to warn you, James. You just stepped in the trap.
This is the first week that you ain't had Minnesota in the dang gone show.
Well, then give me credit for having the first week that I didn't have Minnesota, and don't tell me that I'm still talking about Minnesota.
James, you still brought it up.
Okay, so, well, I brought. Okay,
Well,
I also brought up the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, give you credit. Like we have to give Herschel Walker credit for admitting that he knew the woman that he. So he gets credit for that. So.
Okay, so let's go on to my second part here, because this is about. Let me make sure I tell everybody this is about Las Vegas and the Trump rally in Las Vegas. Okay. Senator Tuberville made a very definitive statement here, and I want to read it to you. Senator Tuberville said that Democrats want reparations for people that do the crime. So, now, as far as I know, in the last 2 decades, there's only been one people that have asked for reparations, and that's Black people, or people of color. Excuse me, people of color. Do so once again, I want to, like kind of ask, your opinion here, Dr. Well, no, I'm going to go to Ms. Sims. Do you think that Republicans don't feel that they need the Black vote, and that they can carry on what they need as long as they have the backing of people of the same ilk?
James, remind you again. Mine is still a terrible thing, and it's hard for me when you bring up such subjects to go down that route. It's still a strategy to get you whipped up in regards to stay in the public's ear and eye to attain or keep power and control. The man isn't a dummy, as he wouldn't be able to come up with things to get and keep people whipped up. That's as far as I'm gonna go down that route, James.
Well,
by yourself now. You're on your own. Miss Dr. Casey don't get you. She waiting for you. Look at that smile.
Hey, she won't be the last pretty snake I'll be bit by either. So,
wait a minute now. Hold on. Hold there. Let's draw that back. Reel that back in.
You already stepped in it.
Ain't no snakes over here.
But again, this conversation now is pointing out how ridiculous this discourse has gotten with this political deal. I mean, if we continue to see a failed, lying, thieving president that's not president no more continue to have rallies, and how in the world he always has these rallies, and it's always a Black man, and maybe an Asian that's always behind, just jumping up like they're so giddy, they're so excited to be behind Trump. And
it's only one. It used to be two. It used to be two. Now it's only one.
It's just one. And so it shows how the current discourse, he's saying that his excuses for what he stole out of the White House, the classified information, he's saying that he could unclassify it. If he could unclassify it. That other presidents, why don't they get after Obama and Bush and Clinton like they get after me? Why don't they, if people dive into this foolishness? I mean, it's the whole discourse now has gotten into a kindergarten state, and the people that can't see through it, this is very interesting because they don't really care about the message anymore. They just care about getting enough people in the Congress so that they can have their way on things. This is all it's really about. It doesn't matter that Herschel Walker is a good candidate. Doesn't matter. And now they bring up stuff about Warnock. Oh, he's got all kind of stuff in his background, supposedly about women and supposedly all kind of stuff, even though he's a preacher, which in itself becomes a whole other type of a dynamic, which on the one hand, saying you're a preacher is promoting that you're so anointed and you're for good. But we're all human and we all have personal lives. And they point out that Warnock has one too. So they're going to attack this thing just so that they can get that seat and get this power. They don't care about the people. They don't care about us. Michael Jackson said that. They don't care about us.
No, as a
Not
matter of
Kanye.
fact,
Michael Jackson said that. Not Kanye West. He didn't say that.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Scott, to prove your point, there was a Republican that said he didn't care if Herschel Walker aborted eagles as long as they got that seat in Congress. I mean, at that Senate seat.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Casey, you're right there. Maybe you.
Don't ask me about
Maybe
no fools. He don't know nothing. He just say whatever. He no different than Kanye. They say whatever the hell come to their mind. They don't. I mean, they don't even have reference points to what they say. They just say it.
Yeah, I mean,
and the craziest part is Herschel is like up, like it's like a neck and neck race down here. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, the Pootie Tang ticket.
I mean, the it's neck and neck. Now I ain't heard nothing about Warnock, but nothing surprised me when it comes to anybody, people, because people are people. It's always gonna be some shit that they don't want to necessarily come out. That if you don't live a certain type of life, I mean, no, I won't say that nobody is perfect because I consider myself to be damn near perfect. I mean, I cuss a little bit, smoke a little weed every now and again, but aside from that, I don't do shit. But it's not many people that live a life of integrity, so it doesn't surprise me when people don't have as much integrity as they run off of, especially when they're politicians. A lot of times, in order to be a politician, they got to know that you're gonna do some other extra stuff so they can feel like that you fit in. It's almost like with the entertainment industry. When you go and try to be in the entertainment industry, it don't matter whether it's sports, whether it's music, whatever it is, it's almost like they have to test you and they hope that they can break you because now they know that they can hold something over your head and so that they can kind of control you. But if you don't have nothing that they can hold over your head, then they don't really want you to be around because guess what? If they ain't got nothing on you, then they can't manipulate you. They can't make you do what they want you to do. If nobody is in your pocket, then they can't have their way with you, and they don't like that.
you agree with that, Miss Sims?
James, I'll just say the strategy is Walker, whatever revelations came out about Walker, kind of threw them for a loop in regards to the track they were on regarding abortion. So one way, they didn't come out to say they couldn't. Well, we made a mistake. We got the wrong fellow up here. Let's get him out of here quick. And so one other possibility is to change the dynamics of the conversation in regards getting people to pro and con against Herschel Walker in regards to some of the things he's saying, doing, whatever. It's to get the public distracted until they come up with somebody else to put out there, and then you'll see they'll get him out of there quick. Right now, that's the game. Keep the conversations going, keep it out there, have people going at each other until they can get Walker out of there. Because I mean, How can I say? I mean, what can they do other than come right out and immediately say, we did wrong. We picked the wrong guy, and I don't ever see them doing that because that's not what politics is about.
You want to finish that up, Mr. Scott?
Well, just to just to follow that cab. I mean, as I said earlier, the whole discourse, the whole having a Herschel Walker. I mean, what a disaster that would be if he were to actually win and get in. I mean, you know, as he talks now, and they ask him questions point blank. Did you know this woman? Oh, I didn't know her. I didn't know her. Did you? No, I would never do anything like that. I don't. Blah blah blah. But then he can flip script, and people try to cover for that, and it doesn't really hurt because now it seems like the whole pool is somewhat tainted. I mean, it's not like there's anybody that has any real integrity or all those kind of things don't matter no more. I mean, when Trump can get up there and say the biggest people should be applauding me, should be applauding what happened on January 6th because of the size of the crowd. This was one of the biggest crowds, so they use these words to deflect. And we're in a thing now where because they can bring these foolish messages to the masses, there's enough people out there that glom onto this mess. And Trump, if he has unleashed all of this foolishness that's going on in this country. He's unleashed. He's put in a Supreme Court that they're poised to change a lot of things on this Supreme Court level. There are cases right there now that are monumental, that are overturning a lot of the things that were fought for to try to make these things more equal across the board for people. Now they're saying, no, those things are costing a little bit too much money, so we better just go back to the way it was. That was better. So there's a whole thing that's behind that we're just seeing some of the remnants, like an iceberg. We're seeing the tip of the thing, but I really think this country is really headed toward, especially with this court thing that they're doing, not just with the abortion. They turn that around. They have a discourse on that is really doesn't make any sense. Taking people's choice away. What's the purpose of that? That we're supposed to be a country that has choice, that has, and this is part of this whole discourse that we're under now with this whole political thing that I don't really see Biden. We're dealing with these Russians now. You have a guy over there in Russia, this Putin. He's a guy that has displayed no humanity whatsoever, no humanity as a person. You see him at a meeting, he's at a table. Another guy's at a table a mile away from him. There ain't nobody at the table. He presents himself. You never see no family. You never see no other side of him. He presents himself as a person that would just tear your head off and just throw it in the garbage can, think nothing of it. So these projections are out here, really, people are falling into that. And it's right in front of us, but it's up to us. What are we going to do about it?
Well, see, Mr. Scott, you make me get off of subjects here. You make me get off script. But can you explain to me, since you mentioned that man over there in Russia, how we can find these billions of dollars to ship over to Ukraine and other places in Europe, but we can't afford abortions over here. We can't afford school day lunches over here. And we have a bunch of kids that can't read.
Well, as I've said before, the money's there, and it's just not the will, the heart, the purpose, the ethics, the morality. None of those things are there. All those things have been eliminated from the discourse.
Dr. Casey.
Yes.
I mean, how do we find all of this other money to send everywhere and
We already in
it-
trillions dollars of debt, so I don't know how we sending money any goddamn where. They just I think Biden is the worst thing that we could have done for our country. Because there's no way he didn't send about damn, I want to say close to 20 billion, if not more, to the Ukraine. And I'm just trying to figure out why he ain't sending no money to Jackson, Mississippi, Jacksonville. Why he
no,
ain't like school lunch should definitely be free if we can damn fund a war for somebody else. But
don't
and
forget about Flint, Michigan. they still they still got bottled water too.
the real truth is back in probably about 2014 or 2015, before Flint, Michigan water crisis, I had already stated, because Georgia has the worst water in the world. Like, I've lived a few places, but here, if you run your water and you leave some water in the sink, within 24 hours, it's murky and slimy and it's just nasty. It tastes nasty. I haven't drank the water in several years. I don't even like to use the water to cook with, if I'm being completely honest. I'll go buy and use bottled water to cook with, because I think that all water systems are jacked up. They use a lot of chemicals to try to treat the water to make it better. But there is not one water system that is up to date in this whole country. Not one. They are all old water systems.
It sounds
So
like
it doesn't surprise me that we're having this water crisis in more than one place. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think a couple years ago, Georgia said they was going to redo the water system here in Atlanta, but all water systems are old. There is not one that's new.
yeah. I mean, the New York water system and New Jersey, Newark. I know haven't been. I'm younger than they are. I'll put it
But
like
that's
that.
what but this is all of the systems. All the
Yeah,
water
yeah.
systems are the same. All the piping, everything. Do you know how much money it would take to really go and redo the infrastructure for the water systems throughout the country? The same trillions or billions that he's sending over to Ukraine, and they over there partying. I didn't see a video of them having parties in Ukraine. What the hell they doing with the money then? I
Yeah.
can't wait for Joe Biden to get out, and then he gonna try to do the
Well,
legalizing weed to try to get people to vote for him. Too late, Joe. You did too much of everything else already. Ain't nobody voting for you.
well. I mean, hey, would you reelect Trump if Trump runs against Joe? Because that's the way it looks like it's going to. It's either going to be Trump or DeSantis against Joe.
Well, I don't think Trump is gonna be able to run again at the rate of lawsuits that he facing, but Trump at this point is looking a little bit better than Joe, because Trump wasn't sending trillions of dollars everywhere. He was goddamn not
Wait a
as
minute,
bad in
hold
that
on. Now.
aspect.
Joe hasn't sent anything to Ukraine. Congress sent it to the Ukraine. You can't blame that on Joe
No,
because
Joe Biden get
the
up there
House
and he make
the
the
House,
announcement.
uh you just look it up. The House Appropriations Committee.
Who make
It,
the announcement? Joe is
no,
the person that get up there and make the announcement.
but who
And
owes
well,
the
guess what? He the
but who
president.
has
He
the
better
keys to
veto
the bank
shit. He
account?
better he need to do something about it. If he's the president and he's the one that's making the announcements and keep telling, oh, we doing this for Ukraine and this, well, he need to do something about it. I don't care who is in charge of it. He is the one that make the announcement. So guess what? It looked bad on him. He is already too dysfunctional to be running and to even be in office right now.
Yeah,
He act like he's suffering from dementia. He can barely damn talk. He can't even read the teleprompter. He is not fit for duty right now. I don't there is nothing that nobody can say to convince me that he is fit for duty right now.
no, I would not say that Joe is fit for duty, but once again, if I have a choice between DeSantis or Trump, I'd rather have a blind squirrel, but that's just me. Uh, Miss Sims, what do you think about all this money being sent to Ukraine, and yet kids can't get school lunches, and people in Flint and Jackson can't have water, but we can send billions of dollars to
When Trump was in
Ukraine.
office, the kids was getting free lunch.
I'm gonna bring it back home as Dr. Casey was talking, and I believe it was just last few days something came across my computer regarding a scandal related to Favre, the football player, in regards to he and
Mm-hmm.
some people diverting $77 million from a
Yeah, yeah.
children's home in Georgia regarding
It was in Mississippi.
Mississippi
Yeah,
regarding building a soccer or volleyball or
a, a
volleyball
volley a volleyball
volleyball
facility
stadium
for his daughter.
where his daughter went to school with and stuff. And so politics is more than just one person and one man. And so therefore, when you get into it, you just can't deal with the face that's out there. You if you're really serious about it and going and take that step, which needs to be taken, you get in there and you find out and you take out or change whatever's going on. And it, I mean, I guess I wasn't expecting this when it came over, and so I just looked at it and I read it a couple of times, and it didn't make sense, like Dr. Casey's saying, in regards to so much stuff, the water, etc., etc., and that's the existence of how people survive. You cannot go. You can go with food longer than you can without water, and so how many years has this been out there? So somebody, some person isn't out there, and as we're talking, it shows, as reminded Dr. Casey brings up, the people that run, who some of the things that are happening we're talking about, it discourages people even to run and in politics because there's so much crap around the issues before you get to the main politics that we know and understand and that could and should be running the country. And it's very discouraging. But if you're keeping your eye on the prize and you don't, like you're saying, James, you don't want, and you know who you don't want in there based on their behavior, and you know what's going to happen, then you have to stay in there and fight the battles.
Mr. Scott, I want to kind of change subjects here a little bit, because another thing that Republicans are quick to point out is this 50% rise in the crime rate. But what they don't point out is that in 8 of the 15 states where crime has risen are states that have voted for 45. Any thoughts on that?
Well, like I say, I mean, I think I've made my thoughts on 45 very clear. The fraud, shill, carnival barker. I mean, all of these type of a things. And again, back to the Brett Favre, and connecting these things. That show, Dr. Casey points out that they have big deficits, but yet and still they find all this money to send to Ukraine. Brett Favre, they can find this money to give to him, supposedly to do something that he's not doing. Up here in Minneapolis, they have a big thing, a scam with these people that have been doing a thing called Feeding Our Children. Set up, you'll see it's a thing that, and it's a very interesting thing because there's 47 entities that have been indicted, and they're all Somalis. But the head of the organization is this white woman, and so the money is gone. We have uncovered on the Our Black News show. We uncovered a check that came from one of those organizations for $93,000 to purchase a Porsche. They took some of that money and bought a Porsche with 90. We found a copy of the check. And so all of these people, and then when the state started to find out about the scam, they tried to stop paying. And then what they did was they sued the state of Minnesota, went to court, and the judge says you have to pay them. And so they continued to get money until the indictment came when we got a new, federal prosecutor. I mean, I don't know how, ethical any of these people are, but he came up with 49 entities. And these Somali folks, they're catching them at the airport. They caught a guy at O'Hare in Chicago trying to go to Nairobi. They have sent money to all over the country. So these entities that get this money, where do they vet these things? Where does this happen? Who's doing the oversight? They're stewards of our money. This is all taxpayer dollars. This is all taxpayer dollars that's going out to all these entities, all these crooks. They're asleep at the wheel. And they've got us talking about Herschel Walker and all these kind of things that are, Herschel Walker is just, this is so foolishness. I call it Pootie Tang. That's what I call him, because he continues to answer questions and not say anything. He continues to cut the people off when they ask him a question, and he just redirects the thing because he doesn't know the answer to what they're asking him. But this is just huge. Kanye West. This is we had a little discussion about that. This is the whole discourse that we're at now, and what are we going to do about it? This is what I'm waiting to see. We're not even getting choices. We talk about, we're going to have Trump, or we're going to get with Joe. Of course, Joe walked like a mechanical man now. He takes his steps so lightly. You can see he can barely. For him to do another term, another 4 years. Oh my goodness, I couldn't see it.
No. I don't see that happening either. But hey, you gonna go with Bernie Sanders? They're in the same birthday club, aren't they? So your choices are.
Well, James, you've been in the service, James. It's either beans or it's either beans or what do they call it? S on shingles. You got a choice, and this is what we're getting.
Yeah, you're about right there. Welcome, Brother Williams. How's your day been going?
Oh, super busy. Can't complain. This is life.
Well, just so everybody knows, we do have our own problems out here in California, and we are going.
That's very surprising. Yeah.
And we are also being assailed on from the far right, but we've had this conversation, Brother Williams, and I kind of want to get your take on it, and. That was Kanye West and his White Lives Matter year.
Wait a minute, I got to turn up my volume. I
think we need to make sure Anthony has bad reception right
now. Well, Mr. Scott didn't know that White Lives Matter was an organization. So. I think maybe a lot of people, especially in my age group and under, maybe we didn't know, or they didn't know, that White Lives Matter was a group that was investigated back in 2016 as being a terrorist organization. When he went on Tucker Carlson, which I was saying, you can watch a full series of Kanye West interviews with Tucker Carlson. But when he went on Tucker Carlson, he said he thought it was a joke. He didn't really mean nothing by it. It was, it was just another gimmick. What was your thoughts on that, Brother Williams?
What you mean in terms of him making a T-shirt, "White Lives Matter"? Well, I
Well,
mean,
the whole concept, the reason why, because he didn't, like I said, he thought it was a joke. It really didn't mean nothing by it. Maybe like some of us, he wasn't alive. He didn't know that White Lives Matter was an organization. Maybe it was an honest mistake.
well, being that he's a billionaire or suspected billionaire, I think he has to hold himself to a higher standard than the average person. As well as when you got money like that and you got businesses like that, there's these things called what they call them the people that basically you hire consultants is what I'm thinking about. You would think a billionaire, in order to become a billionaire, you would have some consultants. I would think any type of business venture he jumps into, product line or whatever, you would pay somebody a consultant in order to see to it that this makes sense. And being an artist, most artists have this thing that they call listening parties, and they're very familiar with what's called murder boards, which is when you have an idea and you pass it through to see whether or not that idea gets canned. I don't think someone can become a billionaire and not have those things in place. So, regardless of what is stated versus what the reality is, I think that's just really meant to try to tone down uh, the the uh, the the anger or the frustration that people would have, or the comments that people would have, and allow him to just continue to do what he do. I view that move as just a pure capitalist move. To me, that's all I see. I see capitalism. I see capitalism. I see a person that done basically sold their soul to the industry to the point to where this is what you expect. To me, it's no different than Little Nas and his 666 speaker tennis shoes that he came out with his Satan tennis shoes. I mean, you. Bottom line is, someone that sold their soul to the industry. They sold their soul to the industry.
Now, hold on, Mr. Robert. I will say that I'm just gonna say this very small thing that 666 is not necessarily the devil.
I
Um,
get that, but you can't tell me that him talking about a drop
now,
of blood
yeah,
and
okay. I just wanted to say
he,
the chemical makeup of
I know carbon.
okay,
I got
okay,
that.
all right. I just wanted that
But
was it.
do you are you also aware that Anton LaVey is also referred to that in saying that's where he came up with the idea of the beast, from the fact that man, the number of man is 666. And if y'all are not familiar with Anton LaVey, I wouldn't call him a satanic priest, but he's a metaphysical monster in terms of in terms of that neighborhood. So when someone like him utilized that as an answer, then to me you're still talking devil worship. Bottom line.
Well, I have some very complex views when it comes to Jesus and him being cast down and Lucifer being cast down, and in them both, they seem like to be one and the same to me, if you're being completely honest. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna let you go ahead.
Well,
But basically,
go ahead, Brother William.
I was just gonna say the bottom line I was getting at with Kanye, and the reference I was really making in regards to that the tennis shoes that he made when we was talking about Little Nas. The position is a person is willing to go as far as they can go, as far as everybody will let them go, and there's nothing off limits in terms of what they're willing to do for money. And I think with Kanye being a musical genius, I will still give him that, grant him that, being a musical genius. Sometimes you get to a point to where you think your doo doo don't stink, and you think that everything that you can say will be blessed. People have put him at that status, and when you get to a certain status, when you get propped up a certain way, you tend to think that nothing can stop you. And he has that mentality, and that mentality oftentimes can be a curse. And so to me, when I look at him willing to put a white lives matter t-shirt out there, I see him as basically capitalizing off of where the United States is, capitalizing off where racism is, capitalizing off of the fact that he knows that he probably will make a lot of money off that shirt, and at the expense of how black people feel he don't give a damn, because black people from that standpoint he feels is not the ones putting money in his pocket.
He a puppet.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
dispute that statement about a musical genius. You know, I mean,
he is. Whether you
I'll
like it or
say
not,
he's a
I'm not saying
business
I'm
genius.
not saying be proud of it. I'm not saying
I'll
it
say
to be proud of it. I'm just saying it's a
I'll
fact.
say
What makes
I
him a
would just
musical
counter
genius?
that. I would just counter that with he's a business genius, and when we talk about
That
musical
came later.
geniuses,
That came
Well,
later.
we
oh,
talk
The
about my
business part
boy.
came later.
We
do,
talk
do
about
you?
my we talk
What
about
makes
my
him a
boy
musical
Prince. We
genius?
talk about my boy in my backyard, Prince. When we talk about musical geniuses,
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
we're
Prince is
talking
one
about
too.
people like that. We're not talking about
Prince is
people
one
that.
too.
I don't think that Kanye fits in the category of musical genius.
Okay. We all entitled to our opinion. I'm simply going off of the fact that how many artists he done produced, how many gold and platinum records he done produced, how many people he done touched with gold
Have
and
you ever
platinum
heard of
records to
Rico
produce.
Love? Rico
Yeah.
Love, he's a musical genius.
Well, I'm not scaling everybody in terms of one is more than the other. Okay? It's not that we can say one person and that's the standard across the board. Because that's no different how the kind of the debate about Michael Jackson and Prince in terms of musical geniuses between them
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
We're not putting it on. I'm not stating who is more of than another. The point is, I feel he makes that caliber based upon what he can do musically.
Yeah, and I
That's
mean,
all.
like you say, if you look at the money that he has brought in, you have to, give him credit for that. Uh, I guess, kind of coming from that Otis Redding school, I don't know if Mr. Scott will ever consider him a musical genius or not, but
I
you
mean, a
know,
lot of the music industry is based on relationships. So anybody that got a whole lot of relationships, or they have one person that can plug them with a whole bunch of other people, then anybody can be a musical genius. It's about relationships,
Well,
because
it is.
everybody in
And it's
music.
about access. It's about
No,
well, I watched Saturday
I
Night
don't agree
Live,
with
and there's
that.
Will Smith's daughter on there calling. She was called herself singing, playing guitar, like she just picked it up. I mean, so the platform has really changed. I mean, to get to a
It's
national
nothing
stage,
like
to get to
having to
people.
earn your way. You don't this From what I know about the music industry, it's about who you know more than what you know or what you can come up with. Because if you know the right people, then they gonna put you in the rooms with people that's gonna allow you to make these type of connections and make this type of musical uh
I
footprint
think. Uh,
more than anything else.
uh, Brother Williams, not to really get into the musical business per se, but I think with all of the modern technology, hasn't that kind of changed? Because now you don't need somebody else to produce your music. You can put it on YouTube in 5 minutes.
That's true, but the difference in the quality as well as the content of what's being said, as well as the putting in the hard work. And if we're gonna just keep it back on Kanye, he was pumping out records, producing hits before they gave him any credit of letting him get behind the mic. He was producing a lot of people and making good money doing that on just music production. And then he finally pushed it hard enough to be able to get an opportunity to step in and do his own record. And that's all. I'm just simply going off his discography in terms of all of the stuff he done collabed with and all of the different people he done produced. But
Yeah,
the bottom line to this whole situation here is we talking about when someone, going back to what Dr. Casey said, knowing the right people, getting in the right circle with the right people of influencers, going back to that concept. Now somebody gets at a certain level, especially when they to me make the mistake of being affiliated with a Kardashian. Now you're on a whole different mentality of thinking. And
Mhm.
that mentality of thinking to me goes right back to why I said when I say you sell your soul. It
yeah,
ain't it ain't just the aspect of getting to a certain position within the music game, but he didn't become a billionaire because of music. Okay, let's make sure we understand that. It's not a billionaire because of music. Uh you know, it's no different than with Jay-Z. It has to do with the industry itself, and then it has to do with those connections. But when people get to a certain level, then they feel like they can do no wrong. And at his point, he loves controversy. He's always loved controversy. He's always loved being the trendsetter as well as being the person that people talk crap about. And he lives off those images. And that fuels his ratings, fuels his awareness, if not awareness, but keeps him relevant, should they say, in the industry. And when a person is able to keep relevant, whether you're saying good things about him or bad things about him, it all ends up in the end typically making them money.
Any publicity is good publicity, right?
To a certain degree. It's no different than, hey, I can go back to NWA when a lot of Christians would go out and buy their albums just to turn around and stomp on them and burn them. You think they cared what you did with it? You paid for it.
I think we're in a different state of what bad publicity could do for a person. Because we're in a state where I don't know if Kanye will ever be canceled, but there are people that once they go to a certain extent, it's not good for their careers. I think that him going, because I think he's going insane.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I believe that despite what he may think of himself, I think that he is in a place where, like I said before, he's still in his sunken place. I think that he's still at a place to where whatever being on Keeping Up with the Kardashians and all of that exposure to whatever they got going on in their lives, that tarnished his soul, not his image, but his soul.
Correct. I agree with you.
I want to move on. Did anyone get a chance to watch any of Gino Jennings' videos?
I actually did.
I did. I watched his stuff in the past, and it's especially the one where, going back to what I said about Little Nas, he put up two videos that he did on Little Nas. And I watched them multiple times. And that was comedy to me, okay?
Yeah. So, now, okay. I know everybody gets on me about Minnesota, but y'all haven't gotten on me about my black church. Because if there's any condemnation at all, that is my number one pet peeve, the black church. Now,
I mean, there's a little bit more to talk about than what goes on in Minnesota.
Well, hey, like I said, I think y'all got a fixation on Minnesota. I use Minnesota to get.
I live here. George Floyd. I can walk over to George Floyd Square.
So wait a minute. So how can you talk about George Floyd without talking about Minnesota? When y'all explain that part to me, then I'll start talking about Minnesota. I'm gonna get
an email, and I'm gonna send you an email of every email that you just send us with topics, and everyone that say Minnesota in the Twin Cities.
Now I'm gonna let them have you.
Hey, I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy. I'm good. I'm like Trump. If I need your help, I'll ask for it. I'm good.
Now, but when you talk about church and religion, that's a really broad topic to speak of because it's so much.
Wait, no. I'm not gonna let you do that. I went very specific. I asked you to look at Gino Jennings. I asked you about very specific things. I didn't broaden it all out to religion. I asked about Gino Jennings. I asked about homosexuality. I asked about his posture on women. I was very, very specific. I didn't include all the religion.
Said black church a second ago.
Let me say
the man is black, and he's the minister of a church where most of the people are black. So if that's not a black church, okay, I'll call it the pink one then. Okay.
Let me say just one thing.
Okay. But go ahead, Mr. Scott.
With James King, you got to realize James King is a boxing man, okay? James King knows how to roll his shoulder. James King knows the old Archie Moore, so he has an impenetrable defense. So I mean, I give him that, but I'm still going to throw my blows. You know,
Hey,
I might get next one.
and I welcome, but like I said, hey, there are topics here that we still had. It's not like we just talk about Minnesota when we talk about black people. We talk about all black people. I'm hoping, but like I said, right now, I want to know how you think about, or what you think about this, the preachings of Mr. Jennings. We have gone through this period now where uh, the LGBTQ community is uh, accepted. Back when I was 20, we had a different name, but that's a different story. But this man goes back to, as far as I'm concerned, he goes back to times even before my childhood. He's still preaching the fire and brimstone. He's still, I think, uh, for instance, he says that he doesn't believe that women can be preachers in the church. He doesn't believe that he believes that women should be covered up, not uh, almost to the extent of and hijab, I believe they call them. And he also believes that homosexuals are condemned to hell. These are all things that are not within what we call the realm of uh, political correctness.
Well, what I listened to, he was talking about how his wife isn't the first lady because he is the only first lady. I definitely heard him reference some of the things that you were saying, even about Christianity not being of God, or Jesus, because it literally isn't in the Bible. But what he was saying, I don't necessarily disagree with, because the valid points that he made are really valid points if you're basing your life on the Bible.
Yep.
If you're basing your life on the Bible, then you can't get away from what the Bible actually says versus what a lot of preachers and quote unquote teachers manipulate the Bible to say for their benefit. That
But
is the
isn't
one
the
thing.
Bible man? I mean, isn't the Bible written, translated, and interpreted by man?
It was put together and, manipulated by people. So yes. However, if you're basing your life on that book that the council put together strategically and
There you
decided
go.
what to go in and what doesn't go in, then what he is saying is not wrong. I mean, when one that I listened to, he was talking about how people are most of these preachers are liars. They're basing everything that they saying off of lies, and he ain't wrong. But I wouldn't necessarily say that. Um, what I would say is that he's not seeking to be political. I think that a lot of times when you talk about women being covered, it's, in my opinion, always being for the protection of women more than anything else. But again, the sermon that I listened to, he addressed how uh preachers they can rape little boys, they can do all these different things, and all people gonna get is a slap on the wrist, based on the way religion is run today, versus it being based on wholeness. So I cannot say that anything that he said was wrong. Um, I kind of respected what he was talking about.
Miss Sims, did you listen to one?
Yes, I did. At first, I didn't. When you sent it, I didn't think I knew the person, but when I clicked on the video, and I think one of the videos first I looked at, he was. It was regarding some other organization outside of his church, the Hebrew Brothers or someone. So he was into that. But the first thing I did, I looked at his audience, and the audience was different from what I years ago when I looked at him, and he seemed to be, up out more in the public. I looked at the audience right then and there. Then I found some videos, went back and looked at videos back and forth to where I knew him as total different people in the audience. It was back then, it was more so of people that you connected to the Muslim face in white, the women's covered of white, men, etc., etc. Then I scanned through the topics of the videos and I saw the messages, what they were talking about. And so to me, that said, okay, James is talking about the politics of the church. I'm not saying the politics of God.
I am not talking about politics.
No. Let me finish. Politics is in the church. The politics, different messages, different people, the stances that they take. Way back when I said that when I read the Bible and people read the Bible, to me, you have to determine, is this of God or is this of man? Man has a lot of different areas, theories that they come from, and that's that's what I was looking at when I flashed the different topics under the videos that he saw. So, James, yes, there is. Politics don't only involve going to the voting booth. There's strategies, whatever, and he was. It was just for me to say something in particular, the message that he was giving. To me, that was asking me to debate what he was saying. That person at that time, it wasn't just, I could not just spread it all over the church. And so I did not go into it that deeply or that one-on-one. I just looked at, to me, what I saw, what was happening. The audience today that I saw was people that you would see in a normal black church. They didn't have on white that you would connect to what the Muslims you saw back then. You saw white people in the audience. Back then, you didn't. Back then, and I think in some videos that I saw, that when he talked at different services, the men were still separated from the women. And so to me, that says, you're going to have to go back to, is this of God? Is this of man? And all that I saw was of man and where he was coming from and how he was interpreting the Bible, James.
Mr. Scott, what did you think?
Well, I'm somewhat familiar with Gino Jennings through one of my brothers. He, one of my brothers is a staunch, reads The Final Call, Eat to Live. I believe Master Fard was here. Believes in Elijah Muhammad. So he told me to look at Gino Jennings once. So I thought Gino Jennings was an extension of that same type of practice. I mean, he had the bow tie, he had the man standing there talking with him, he had the security around him, as Miss Dems said, he had the women sitting in one side with the shawls on their head. But I don't understand Gino Jennings' ideology. He says it's strictly the Bible, but then his presentation, he makes it like he's mimicking what I saw with, when I see Mr. Farrakhan and three people of that ilk. Well, I don't know what Gino Jennings is really doing. I mean, but he's in Philadelphia and he's put together a great group with his programs. But overall, my feelings are as I've said before, I believe the history of the Black church has been one of the things that have helped our people more than any other institution. And not the faith part, but the fact of being together, the fact of grouping and putting your heads together and just being in an environment where you can talk to each other, go against all the things we've got to fight against each other. I think the church has a serious place in that. And as clear cut to me now as it was then. Maybe because I don't go to church as much as I used to, or be a regular member like that. But the Gino Jennings thing is it's just very interesting to me. I mean, he comes up with different positions and different points, and he continues to say his ministry is Bible based. He continues to say that, but when I listen to him preach, it's more Gino based things that he says that he wants people to do. Um, I mean, I've watched Steve, I follow him, but I'm not real clear on where he's actually coming from because of his presentation. When I first looked at him, until I really started really watching him occasionally, I thought that he was, one of the Muslim sect, but I guess he's not. Somebody would have to school me on that part of him.
Uh, what's your thoughts there, brother Robert? And how do these ministers fit into Panther-based principles?
Well, I wouldn't say religion, period, from that standpoint, regardless whether we're talking about Christianity, Islam, or whatever, fit into Panther ideology, because our position on religion is that it is one of the biggest divisive forces that there are, and religion is one of the biggest reasons why we have wars amongst nations, and separation amongst people on the planet. So any religious perspective from that standpoint does not fit in there, because we basically look at it as being divisive. So we allow people to be in have their religious views, as long as they keep their religious views to themselves, because it's about getting out and doing the work in the community. It's about recognizing that imperialism and racism are at the root. Now, obviously, from a religious perspective, we can see how those things obviously play themselves out in religion. But as far as my opinion on his topics and his speech, I grew up as when I was a child in the holiest movement, which is where he hails from, and so I grew up with the mentality. How I was exposed to Christianity was fear based. Was hit you with this, hit you hard, and have that hard line, and non compromising mentality. In Dallas, Texas, is the center of the Bible Belt, so that's just how it was there. As well as the same views he had on homosexuality are the same views I grew up with and being exposed to on homosexuality. So from that stance, I when I personally, and this is me speaking on a personal perspective, within the Panther Party, we refer to the next generation through what we call the continuity of the next generation. Continuity basically means to be able to continue and expand upon, and we want a foundation that each generation is able to build on top of. So, from an aspect of natural law, what continuity of the black family means is a man and a woman in order to reproduce an offspring, regardless of where a person sits in terms of their sexual preferences. If you are here today now, and you're not attracted to the opposite sex, you don't have any children, irrelevant. The point being, you will not be born on this planet unless it had something to do with a sperm and an egg, which comes from a man and a woman, period. So regardless of how we feel about the expression of our sexuality, the idea of the continuity of the black family, the continuity of our race, it's about the man and the woman. So you have to respect that, and you have to know that that's what it means to be in support of our continuity. And so that's what we teach in regards to that from a Panther ideology perspective. Now, personal opinions on sexual preferences is a whole nother thing. But you have to respect that life is only created through the union of a man and a woman. And that's where we sit on that, and that's just an obvious truth, because can't no one say that they came in this world through two men bumping. or two women bumping. There ain't no one yet has been able to prove to me that that's how you came, that's how you was conceived. And so as long as it takes the aspect of conception the old school way, that is where we sit in terms of our foundation, our principles of foundation. Now, in regards to Pastor Jennings, in terms of his statement on the Bible, in regards to where he feels with homosexuality, I kind of personally side with that simply because I grew up with that. And again, when I look at the conception of what it takes to create an offspring, to me that's natural. And I think anything else is an abnormally, an anomaly. Now, are there anomalies in this world? Of course there are. So the point being, an anomaly does exist. So there are people that exist in that framework. Obviously, we deal with that and we accept that. But to make that the norm is where I find fault. When we want to make things that are abnormal become normal and become the okay thing, and we want to push that to replace natural law, to replace the natural way of life, that's when I start finding problems. And to me, that falls under what we refer to as identity politics. I think identity politics are what is another thing and another weapon that is used against our people, because instead of getting us to recognize how we need to be working toward collective organizing, collective empowerment, and collective work, we focus on our individual likes and wants and lust. And so from that standpoint, those things keep us away from doing what we need to do to form collective relationships with one another. So I don't agree with those identity politics, because those type of identity politics are just another way to create division and another way to keep people chasing the carrot on the stick, and feeling like their voice counts or their personal preference counts to the degree to where it supersedes what we need to do as a people. And that's my part on that.
In listening to Brother War, I want to say he just really hits this on the head. But I want to say one of the things he said earlier is it used to be a time when we kept these type of views to ourselves, where we kept these type of things and we did, you keep it to yourself. And now it's just these viewpoints now are out there for so many ways. Are they out there to recruit people? Are these separate views out there in our schools and teaching people what we don't teach in our homes that are teaching people? So I think that this is where things kind of get out of hand, and people would even keep their religious views to themselves, not just their sexual views or sexual orientations or sexual desires or sexual whatever you want to call it, to themselves, a private matter. And this is where we've gotten so far away. As I view today's society, it's almost like an anything goes society. It's an anything goes. You can say anything. You can get on there, and the people on the news and these people talk about other people or politicians or people and say they lie. They're just liars, and they come right out and they're calling people out, and it's just there isn't just seems to be a personal private discord, and they seem to be a whole eradication of taking away our rights to be the people that we feel we want to be. We don't have to be these other things. We can be within our family and within our group. We can be who we want to be and what we choose. And I think that's one of the things I see in the current discourse. And Gino Jennings, I think he's good at what he does. And a lot of the points that Brother War made about the old school thoughts and things, that's how I grew up too. That's how I grew up in that type of a thing where we always saw people in church and stuff. They were, I'd see mom saying, "Oh, look at him. He's switching. He's trying to switch. Look at that." And I'm like, what is that? What is he talking about? So they were always there, but it wasn't like that was the main thing going on. And they were there and they were part of it and they had a right to be there and they participated in what was going on. But their personal lives stayed that way. And everybody's did, not just one everybody's group's personal lives pretty much stayed that way, per their choice. They kept it the way they wanted to keep it. So it's a very interesting time we're living in now, and I hope to get to actually Philadelphia, and I want to attend one of Gino's services. I'd like to attend one because I like to attend different services. I go to things just to attend it.
Make sure I'm not around because the building probably catch on fire if I walked inside. But that's another story. But Ms. Sims, what do you think about that? Are we just more open nowadays instead of keeping things to ourselves? Our private lives to ourselves.
Well, when Robert was speaking, it reminded me some thoughts that I had, and it fits into this conversation. The big thing up here in Nationwide was about the abortion. And I always go back to the bottom line and kind of think, well, what's going on? And then I thought of everything that I know in this world has a center of balance. And I think creation center of balance for our human still existing is a man and a woman. You gotta have them to exist. Then I thought, who in this world that I know did not get here by the way of a woman's body? And it was God, Adam, Eve. Even Jesus Christ got here by way of a woman's body. So to me, that the thing about abortion still is even stronger a political man thing to get and keep power than ever. And the up here commercials are showing how men are supposedly speaking out regarding protecting the woman and speaking up for the woman. And that struck me. And I said, well, that's right. If you think of how you got here and everybody dead and living got here by way of a woman's body, and you want to protect it, and you got here by way of a woman's body, why wouldn't you kind of listen to a woman's coming from? And why should this continue to be allowed to be an issue of politically of any kind the way it is and seems to be going? And then I thought, look, these political people are going to keep pushing women and on, and it's going to come to like the way back then, prohibition. Women are going to say, okay, no more sex from you guys. I'm in control of this. No more sex. The men are going to go crazy. They're going to write bills. I mean, and I say that to think of the ridiculousness of how far this can go. If you keep pushing women, that's one of the alternatives they can, in terms of process or in terms of getting their point down. No more sex, men. So, man, what are you going to do? You're going to write bills? How can you make a woman, other than rape her or whatever, have sex? It's kind of like the women did back in Prohibition. I think one of the reasons it was instigated by women, men were coming home drunk and not doing anything, etc., etc. So men pushed, and there became a need for existence or whatever need to do to make a healthy society. And so prohibition came about, and through the years, different things came about regarding it. But men, you keep pushing, you're going to get a stronger, and women realize they might not have thought about it yet. They're in a position to say, no more sex.
I don't think that'll happen.
Men.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you. No,
not in this society.
That only happens to society that is older than me and Miss Sims. But because I do not believe that the majority of women do not enjoy sex and will.
I didn't say that.
You said they would refuse sex to men.
That's a power that women have over men. Oh, that's a power women still, the ultimate power that women have over this topic.
They're not taking their sex away. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. That ain't that.
Dr.
Yeah, but
Casey,
the point circles around. The point circles around to my fundamental belief: the woman chooses.
oh yeah, I definitely believe that. But she also, like you said, she chooses. She chooses not to have. She chooses to have. But I don't know a lot of women that choose not to. Like I said, I got 7 sisters, and I know that 5 of them. Well, anyway, we won't even go there. But
the thing is that choosing not to have sex normally for women leads to women with women versus them not having sex at all. And that is where I think we get a lot of, I know people say they're born that way, but a lot of women get frustrated with men and then they go and get toys and then they be drunk with their friends. And that is where a lot of female on female play comes from. Personally, I don't get drunk with just anybody. I won't get drunk with people that I think is my friends because women have ulterior motives just like men have ulterior motives. And it's not spoken upon like that, but it's just the fact of the matter.
You guys are missing my point. Maybe I'm not. Maybe just do the way.
No, you're saying that women will have the choice or be pushed to a point to not want to have sex with men.
And you
I'm saying that is not gonna happen.
And you all, well, I think you're missing because you all are focusing on the actual physicalness of sex. I'm saying that in order, women are going to get so mad to push and push and get back that they can say to cut this and keep abortion from keep coming up and to settle this matter forever, no matter what the Supreme Court. They can put that out there.
But what I'm saying, Ms. Sims, is the likelihood of women.
I'm talking about the power of it. I didn't say it's going to last forever. I didn't say anything about the consequences of it. But you make decisions, and some women will do that.
No. I don't think
you can't boycott the poo nanny. I don't think that's
it's not gonna happen.
That's the power. That's
women are very hypersexual.
You are showing the power. The men are gonna wait a minute. No, you can't.
I'll tell you, unfortunately, all that'll happen is the men are simply change the law and make prostitution legal, and there's always enough women out there that will keep that open.
So why go down that road when you just stop and let's deal with this abortion thing, put it to rest, make the
abortion should not be a tool of
stop getting about. And let's move on now.
Abortion should not be used as a tool to be birth control. And right now, all the political stances about abortion right now is to give people the opportunity to use it as a tool of birth control, not because of necessity. They're not saying, hey, and I just commented on Stacey Abrams' page, and I just cut somebody out that texted me about Stacey Abrams the other day, because the what they are pushing is taking away the opportunity for people to get abortion, like that is like a go-to. Abortion should not be a go-to. Be selective in who you have an unprotected sex with. Be selective about who you're giving yourself to, laying down with to begin with. The amount of people that's actually having abortion because of medical necessity is very small. People want the opportunity to be irresponsible.
And all that's out there regarding the abortion back and forth. What I'm saying, that in order to, deal with it, let's not keep having this come up over and over and over. You keep pushing and pushing. When you keep pushing and pushing people, they do uncharacteristic things that they normally would not do. And I'm not saying, and everybody, there's a consequences for all our actions. But and I think bring that up in terms of we as a society and human beings at time don't keep our eye on the real prize of this thing. And that's why we're having such conversations. It could have been, it was, that decision was made years ago. But whomever it is and whomever wants to bring it up, here we are again.
Well, but I think my comments were misconstrued too, because when I said the woman picks, I'm just like, if she's going to be with you, it's up to her. There's nothing you can do to me. You can call, you can do this, you can flower, whatever. But if they say no, 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 I still believe that the woman picks, and I'm talking that from the standpoint of a relationship or some type of even going out or doing what have you. I believe that the women pick that. I really do.
Mr.
And if
Scott,
they go farther, well, then I believe that that's, yeah.
I think that if we as men believe that, we had that gift of gab and talk women into this and that, I think that we are being very facetious, because I think that, like you said, the woman chooses. And no matter, you can bring, you can be that guy that brings the limo, the flowers, and the champagne. But if she want that bad boy, that's who she gonna be with.
That's what.
I think
And I mean, and I got tremendous rap. Oh my
as
goodness!
a woman,
I can talk that game. I mean, but I've even been turned down in the past.
listen, but as a woman, you can think women choose. However, you can be not what a woman wants, and if you can be charismatic or manipulative enough, then you can get any woman that you want. You just gotta come to her at her level. A woman chooses, but a lot of times the choice is really not the woman's.
Well, with that being said, Dr. Casey, why don't you give us your final thoughts and take us, and then we'll go to Brother Scott.
Well, my final thoughts would be taking away rights is not really taking away a lot, because people are going to be people. When there is a will, there's a way. People gonna find a way to do whatever it is that they really want to do, regardless if anybody says that it's okay or not. And at the end of the day, we just got to make sure that we're making the choices that are best for us in our own lives, and be willing to live with and face the consequences of whatever choice we decide. Because at the end of the day, whatever you decide to do or you decide not to do, you have to live with that decision. Because at night when you get ready to go to bed, you gotta have peace to be able to go to sleep. And you can go to sleep and not have peace, but it is not gonna be restful. And the goal is to go to sleep every night and be able to get rest, not just go to sleep, close your eyes, and your spirit is all, out of whack. So you got to make the choices that's going to allow you to sleep at night. And a lot of those choices may not be what everybody else likes. It may not necessarily be controversial, but it has to be able to allow you to have peace. And if you got peace about whatever it is that you got going on, you could be a crook, you could be whatever you decide to be, whatever gives you peace at night. But I'll tell you one thing, it ain't too many crooks that sleep restful. It ain't too many people that do wrong and then they go to sleep and they don't have no issues. They're not watching over their back. They're not, you know what I'm saying? You got to be able to live a life that is peaceful and peaceable, and then make the choices that allow you to sleep at night. That's the only thing I can say on this conversation. Oh, but wait, don't forget, go buy my books, speakingfreedom.org. They're available on Barnes and Nobles. They're available everywhere that you purchase books at.
So is this online or is it just a real book?
Oh no, I have this particular book is an actual physical book that you can buy on Barnes and Nobles, or you can go to Author House and buy it. You could also go to my website at edu-freedom.org. And then I have 6 audiobooks that also come with, or you can purchase workbooks that go with them, so that while you're listening to the audiobook, you can work through your own issue. And
Well, I
those
think I
are
bought
available
an
at
audio
Apple
book, but
Books.
maybe I didn't get the email or something. I bought something, but I didn't get. But you know, I don't know.
You,
Get your
I
money
will,
Sound
and
like
get
you
your money
got
back,
a
but
mad
I
customer.
will go and check and see, because I do see that you purchased something, but it may have been that you should have downloaded what you purchased. So
Oh,
you have
that
to
could
look
be.
and check.
That could be. Yeah, that could
Yeah,
be. Yeah.
if it's an audio book,
Yeah.
when you purchase it on my
Okay.
website, it comes with a downloadable link, and you have to actually go and download the book. Now, when you get it from the sites that they're available, because I've gone mainstream now, it still comes with as soon as you make the purchase, you can download it.
Okay.
Whether
Okay.
you get it on Apple Books or on Barnes and Nobles right now, those are the 2 main places that you can download my books from.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Mr. Scott, your final thoughts for the evening.
Well, my final thought is just basically, you know, boy, racism continues to be the common denominator. It just continue. I saw something on TV the other day talking about racism in Ukraine. I'm like, what the heck? So people are trying to get their hat and get out of Ukraine. And so people are going to planes and trains and buses. But there's black people in Ukraine, people of color, but they can't get on the bus. The white folks have to get on first. They can't. They have white folks have preference to get out of town before the black folks that's paying their tickets, paying their transportation. So, the racism continues to be the common denominator that I just think we have to sift through in every situation that we get into. Is how is this going to affect me, or how can I stay ahead of that game? Because that game is constantly with you, no matter what the things you watch on TV, the movies you see. I love watching a lot of these older movies because boy, they're out and out racist. They don't have actors supposed to be Chinese, and you can tell. I know who this actor is. He's not no Chinese. I know exactly who this guy is or who this girl is. They're not Chinese, but that's kind of the thing that the world deals with, and I don't think it's a anomaly just to the states or to the United States. I think it's a worldwide thing. That is something that and as we've stated, until we really get together and have our own, and this has been preached by many others. This isn't coming directly from me. This has been preached by many others. Until we, take that stand to say we want to have a foothold here in whatever area it is, it's just going to constantly be this scramble. Like you're in the dodge. We used to play dodgeball in grade school, and it's kind of like we're constantly playing that. So that's my, I appreciate everybody's input. Brother War, you missed some of the earlier things about some of the rap type of things we talked about, but I'm sure maybe we can have a program to break that down, to get positions on that. I think that'd be very enlightening.
You let me know when, Mr. Scott, and hey, we can add and you can be the moderator. How's that?
Oh, I'll be ready. I'll tell you that.
All
I'll be
right.
ready.
You just let us know when. We'll set up the Anthony Scott special. Miss Sims.
First, I want to commend you, James, for you did put on something positive coming out of Minnesota, which were the boxes, and I did watch, and it was an excellent show. And I remember.
Mr. Scott was friends with one of those gentlemen, Mr. Cecil Ford.
Okay, and it brought me back memories of when my son was younger, junior high school. We used to watch a lot of the boxing together, and I remember us watching Marvin Hagler, I believe the name, and then Uh, he I can't tell you that I do remember a little bit about that, but I was glad to see, and I asked him to when he had time to watch the show and give me some feedback on the persons that you presented. Number two, I watched last week, and Mrs. Scott, you were not you when you would not be convinced of anyway, you kept your stance in terms of the rap game position, the people where you coming from. You held that, and people kept giving you, various instances of the where and why. But to me, when you kept your stance, to me, that says something is going on deeper with you. You've had some sort of a personal experience, somebody or somewhere in regards, what was going on, because you're not a dumb or a hard man, but something you're trying, your resistance to me was telling me something. And so I got that, but I really felt sorry for what they were coming at you, but you were out there on your own. You stepping in that hornet's nest and wouldn't come out. And you might want to cover your ears on this part, because my son is part of the Womack family, so he was raised on R&B old school. But as he became a teenager, he became interested in the rappers at that time, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, etc., etc. And so he shared that with me, and trying to get me to know who they were, and I did to a point. But as he grew up, and even now, he's expanded that to cover all kind of genres of music. Now you might want to cover your ears on this part, Mrs. Scott. On Facebook, he has a page called Hip Hop Now, and it's over 30 some million, I think, followers, etc., etc. But he also has a page under his name, Howard Womack, that he usually does sports things. And normally when you go in, he announces the boxes of that week. Or right now, I think he may have the football out there. And so, in terms of, but I did one in regards to the rap game. And back during the time, it was like I said, as I remember, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, and Ice T, and their rhetoric was against the man and what the man was doing at that time. But as they grew up, and even now, they now are doing business with the man, profit from the man. And I have often wondered the things that they said back then when in their youth, and then the young rappers coming up, listen to that. What damage did they do with the positions? And I'm not saying they weren't legitimate positions, but I think some of that, what they were espousing, a lot of the younger rappers grew up and picked up on, and some of that negativity has gotten stronger over the years, while these men are going on and making millions. And I'll say this, and one of the oddest things couples on TV that blows my mind is the relationship between Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. And they do a cooking show together, and they do a kind of a dog Olympics again and stuff. But that's just an example that as you age and you're mature and whatever you go through, things can change. And I think one of the reasons he hooked up her was during the time she was going through a lot of this court stuff, and they were really coming at her. And maybe he could see where she was coming from and took her side. I didn't really go into all of that, but hang in there, Mr. Scott. And sometimes you think, what's the real reason? It's something that's bothering you. You could talk to me. I'll listen. I won't try to shut you down.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your concern, but my situation with the rap thing again, it's 70-year-old rappers out here sagging, have turned around, all that. This looks ridiculous to me. But also, back in the time when I was getting out of college, I was in bands, and I pretty much made more money in bands and playing music with the Sounds of Blackness and different groups. And I had a master's degree. I had a master's degree at 23 years old. But once the rap and those type disco, those type of things came in, they didn't want no more bands. They said, I can get a guy with a record to come in here and pay him just one guy. I could. And so this is kind of where that still kind of grates on a lot of us, a lot of the guys that came up with me, my band members and friends. It was
And
at a time
don't forget he said his father-in-law used to, downplay his career in music as well.
So I can't answer for that, but
that's very true.
There you go.
Because well, actually, at that time too. I mean, there's usually been kind of a stigma where people they don't want their daughters to be with musicians. I mean, noted as a musician has some type of in general, has some type of a stigma to it for many different reasons that we're not going to go into now. But
and at one point, I had to go back and ask my son, son, do the rappers now, can they really sing with their voices other than the words,
Very good question. Very good question, Miss.
Yeah, some of them can sing. Yeah, some of them can sing.
Yeah. Well, not all singers can sing either, Miss Sims.
Right.
I don't understand all the words and stuff, but I was looking for somebody to, but Mr. Scott was talking about they were still out there.
I got to cover up. Impenetrable defense.
Cover up. I got the blood on that one.
Take us home, Brother Williams.
Well, I'm gonna be brief, but I just like to say to the listening audience, the bottom line, a lot of the stuff we're saying, at the end of the day, it's about defining purpose, finding your true purpose, recognizing that as a people, we have to hold ourselves accountable to the conditions that this and the courses that this planet is taking. As a part of the human race, as a part of the Black family, just know that if you stand by and don't do anything, then you are helping things to further along down the spiral of destruction. We have to take a stand and do our part as individuals and as Black people and as a human race to make things better. Either you're gonna be part of the problem by not participating or by inadvertently being part of the problem, or you're gonna take a stand, recognize how you must hold yourself accountable, be a critical thinker, accept the fact that we must be diligent with our learning and have an appetite for learning and for growth, and move forward. And I like even to throw out there that when we talk about people being learners, lifelong learners, the bottom line of that is you're going to learn. You're learning whether you're learning the easy way or the hard way. So there's no way to avoid learning in life. The point is, are you going to embrace growth? And if we're going to embrace growth, regardless of our age, then we're going to be holding ourselves accountable and be okay with holding ourselves accountable. And then we have to stand up and take a stand and fight for what's right. And to me, with that that's just the bottom line at the end of the day. No matter what generation we find ourselves in, whether it be the elder generation, middle class, or the youth, at some point in your life, be willing to step up, stand up, and serve properly. Serve your people properly and serve humanity properly. San Diego Black Panther Party is going to be having our Panther Day event this Saturday in San Diego at 6401 Skyline Drive. I do want to, just invite those people that are from San Diego to come out and learn more about the Panther Party, learn more about other organizations that we're going to have presence, the Uhuru Movement, UNIA, Racial Justice Coalition, and a few others are going to be out there. And so if you want to be involved in grassroots work, come out and get involved wherever you can. There's going to be something for everybody out there in terms of an organization that you can find your foothold in and be ready to step up and be more active and involved. With that, I just like to bring on power to the people.
And what was that address again, Brother Williams?
6401 Skyline Drive, San Diego.
Zip code?
92114.
Is that around the Euclid area or?
It's actually it's the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Park.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you
No,
for that.
you, James. You, James.
What do you already got on me all day for
I want
bashing
to hear your
Minneapolis.
last words.
Okay. Well, my last words, Miss Sims, is I'm kind of like I'm kind of like Brother Williams here. You can't boycott the punani. I'm sorry. Y'all have a good night, Mr. Scott. I'll talk to you on Thursday. Got to talk about the collapse of your Twins, and I don't know what to talk about your Vikings, but I'll see you on Thursday. Y'all,
Peace and love.
We're talking about collapsing your Pittsburgh. Your Pittsburgh.
oh, hey, we
You
knew that
finally got your pickings up to talk about.
Well, hey, we already knew that Pittsburgh wasn't gonna do nothing this year, so that hey, the Falcons will probably beat us this year, but that's another subject for another day.
There he goes with that Archie Moore defense.
Have a good night, everyone. I'll talk to you next week. See you later, Mr. Scott.